is so difficult just to jump a millimeter when you're sliding down a piece of tube.
All right. Welcome back to another school news. Stokedelic here. Gepper taking a turn for the better, honestly. Olympic skier made influencer. To be quite frank, I am a huge fan of the cringecore. And in the meantime, probably losing friends while doing it. I don't see Jack being very happy skiing today, especially when Gepper's gonna take off all of your clothes in front of him. It's one thing if a situation escalates to the point where someone is in their underwear.
Take your clothes off.
It's an entirely different thing for you to be sitting there enjoying your evening, and then your buddy Nick calls you and says, "Come up to the mountain with me tomorrow. I am going to take basically all of my clothes off, and you're gonna film it." You know what? Now that I say it out loud, a lot of my friends would probably do that. Let's keep going. A couple films that came out in the last week really stood out. First thing to note is that What's for Breakfast and Why You Hate Me both clock in at under 10 minutes, which is a very appropriate video for what both of them had. Not saying that they're bad videos by any means. It was under 10 minutes of basically strictly bangers. This Nada Spin 3 from Joel was fucking crazy. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that on a rail. Another clip that I wanted to mention was this one. The slide hop to slide. Down the down flat down. Very fucking impressive. One day when I have kids and they ask me, "Daddy, what's street skiing?" This is one of the clips I'm going to pull up. I also really enjoyed Why You Hate Me. Kind of for the same reasons. This one was a little bit longer at 9 minutes and 9.5 minutes, but it had enough features in it, and basically entire time was bangers. I know I made fun of this clip last week, but everything worked really well in this video. The pacing was right, you never got bored, and most importantly, pretty much every single clip in here is A-roll. Even like rewatching it, other than say a couple of like, less than mind-blowing clips, it's not like these are like weird carving shots or like half shots where you just get like a glimpse of a butter 3 or anything like that. Everything in this video is worth putting into a video. It's as simple as that. Is it worth putting in my video? Absolutely. I think that question differs for different people. The amount of B-roll edging type of shit that you want to make people feel. Maybe I'm just not a huge fan of the whole like getting swooned and seduced into a video. I'd rather you just kind of like get fucking right in there. The other one that falls into this category obviously is DAYCARE. I'm not going to talk about DAYCARE as a whole. I think there's been plenty of coverage on it, and I'm assuming every single person that's watching this video has watched DAYCARE. Anything that I would want to say, Milo probably said in his article. And then there's even more official New Schoolers content on DAYCARE. Will and P-Ring got interviewed by Matt 3 weeks ago now. Two things I did want to bring up is Andy's skiing. I think we're seeing the final, fully max-leveled wizard here. I will be the first to admit, ask me like 5 years ago, and I would have told you I think all of Andy's skiing is whack. Not the case anymore. He's kind of evolved and framed all of this stuff correctly, and that kind of makes it all even more impressive. Like the fact that you can take an ugly trick, like a nugget, whatever your personal opinions are on the nugget, and do something with it in the streets like this, like actually a technically difficult and impressive thing to watch, all while wearing a Darth Laser type helmet. The other thing I wanted to mention is I think P-Ring in his Two Planker podcast was talking about how the fuck they got up onto this roof, and basically there was no explanation. Like, I need way better of an explanation other than it took all of us to get him up there. Pete's a painter, so he's good with ladders. That doesn't explain anything. That's like explaining that you're floating in the air with like, "Oh, well, I have really strong calf muscles." That doesn't make any fucking sense. What I like to imagine until we get a confirmed answer, someone goes here in like 360 videos this fucking building, is that everyone who was there just stood on each other's shoulders until eventually we had like a tall enough singular person made of smaller people to get Pete onto the roof. wanted to shout out Buldoz putting out Lean In. Something I really like about Buldoz is that they're consistently putting out these smaller crew vids, and that really helps you cultivate a vibe, especially when you're kind of growing as a crew. Something that's really highlighted by Lean In is that I am not a total hater of B-roll. I think that B-roll, when it's used correctly, is an awesome thing to have. If you're gonna have a 9-minute video and 6 minutes of it is this like weird fucking B-roll that totally is separate from the skiing itself, I agree. It breaks up the flow of your video, it adds a nice pacing to it, but it feels like people are trying to make the longest video they can because it costs a lot to get that footage. The cost to output ratio needs to be at a certain point for a lot of people these days. I also was wondering if anyone had context on this clip right here. I would love a little bit of information. I think we all would. Our next segment today is a little bit of a stir, especially if you don't really care about this stuff, but hopefully by the end of this I will convince you that you should at least care a little bit. I do want to start this with saying that essentially every piece of information that I am about to present to you is from a deep, deep insider source. I can't say who, because the reason that this show works is I really don't give a fuck whether or not ski companies like me. Like, I'm not trying to get sponsored or anything, so I really don't have to care. Anyone who is kind of like doing this for their living, they do have to have a certain amount of like professionalism involved. I do that shit in my 9 to 5 as much as I can. This is where I just like vent and let all of the anger and frustration out. So instead of me being like, fuck you, Carol from HR, it's just me like telling people that they ski like shit and like their videos suck and stuff like that. And along with that, I truly think it'll be a little bit funner if this is an unknown source. Maybe we end up with like a deep throat of Watergate situation where years and years from now the source comes out and everyone goes, ah, I knew it. But for now, you get me. Both callouts we have today were actually from Gusto, which we reviewed last week, and happened within about a minute of each other. So I almost wonder if eCook knew behind the scenes that he did this. You know, when you do a bad thing, you almost like want to do a little bit more, and you're like, okay, this is the one time, like just right now. It almost feels like that's what happened here. Willie Griffith, if you don't know who Willie is by now, Willie was a Super Unknown finalist last year, and I believe that these are some of his first street clips, at least in like a full length. Willie, 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 this right here, my friend, has already been done. Our insider source does inform us that this spot is quite gnarly, so thinking about anything other than just straight sliding it is a little bit heinous, but Dak had the same exact clip in Why Not last year. You might be thinking, oh, that's totally fine. Dakota's been around a little longer. He set the precedence, and Willie didn't know any better. He can get away with it. But let's take it one layer deeper. R.I.P. to the man himself. Matt Heffernan did this 8 years ago. That said, moving forward, I have high hopes for Willie. I have no problem with the ABDs that were in his part. Being his first street part, I think it's totally acceptable, but moving forward, would love to see the guy step it up. On a more controversial note, another ABD that appeared in Gusto, for those of you who attend the University of Utah, should know this spot instantly. Here we see Jack Borland in his 15-16 edit do a switch 2 on and slide the thing, come out to regular. Here we see Magnus do like a switch 180, slide to 2 with a nose grab, hauls down, and then he threes the road. 7 years ago, Hackle did a switch 3 down it, swivel to 450, and then I believe he 180'd the road. Freed was there 7 years ago, and I mean, Freed's clip is a little bit different. He did like a nollie straight down, but then cruises down and backflips off that little hump out of the road. And this year, Mr. Henrik Harlow himself shows up to the spot to leave his mark. We went over this last week. This clip was in 2 different movies this year, and along with that, the Megamo put onto this moment. Henrik drops for the straight slide. I think it's a little different if this spot was hit once, twice, but like, it's the fucking U sign. This spot has been played out, brought out to dinner, handed around your friend group, and we have Idolo show up and just straight slide it. Like, I feel like I could fucking do this, honestly. Once again, this almost feels intentional. I don't know if it's someone at Monster. I don't know if it's Henrik. This math just is not adding up for me. Throw in the straight slide ABD at the block U and not thinking anyone is going to notice. We're getting to a certain point where people have to be called out. Once again, would like to say thank you to our unnamed source. Not to give out any more details for who this person is, but let's just say it goes all the way to the top. Next thing I want to talk about is Gilson Skis, I think, put out their first ever street edit. Young Sizzle out here representing. First thing I want to say is absolutely not disrespecting Young Sizzle skiing. I think the guy is a good skier. I love that he's putting out street parts. I also think that within the first 20 seconds of your street video, showcasing that your skis break twice, that's a really bad look. Given falling straight into a closeout is never fun, but I don't think either of those falls really warranted the entire ski snapping. To use that to market how like raw and real your street clips are doesn't really say, holy shit, this is badass. It just says, holy shit, that's a bad product. The roots of Gilson is really not the roots of most ski companies. Based in Winfield, Pennsylvania, which I'm assuming is maybe near Seven Springs, but more than anything, like, at first glance, it was founded in Nashville, Tennessee. So immediately this math doesn't add up. I'm not sure what genius salesman showed up at Young Sizzle and his parents' doors to get him to sign this contract, but it needs to be paid more. Along with that, Gilson, you really gotta pay Young Sizzle more if you want him to stick around. What I'm picturing happened, honestly, is that Lucas approached Gilson like, hey, will you throw me some money to make like a street film or whatever? And Gilson's boardroom just got so hard. Everyone stopped what they were doing. They were like, get in here, get in here, get in here. You know how we sponsor people sometimes and like do that because we have to? One of them is gonna make a street film. And then they all like start like licking their little gerbil balls or whatever the fuck they do at Gilson Skis. And I think after this video, it's gonna become a lot of Gilson like sucking on the toes of Young Sizzle here. Now that he's established that he is a credible source in our community, they've got to lean in as much as they fucking can if they don't want to lose this guy. I'm talking first class plane rides, full projects with filmers, editors, special effects artists. But I think after this video alone, if Gilson isn't really careful, someone's gonna pick Lucas up in a matter of like weeks, if not days. I don't know the guy. I don't know if he wants to be on Gilson.
Oh, don't tell me it's over.
Oh,
Thank goodness. Look at the lighting hitting this man's epidermis. Big old pink gorge on him.
The title of this video is too good. Okay, at this point, it might get petty, so feel free to leave. I might just like laugh at Steep reacting to the Runge. This is like the most meta thing we can do on the internet here. A streamer reacting to a streamer reacting to a video that the first streamer already reacted to. That's some put me on a shirt and then I'll put you on a shirt with me on the shirt type shit.
If this is your first time hearing about them, it's the same for me, but Wow. Switch 2, pretzel 4. Dude, this isn't even the full edit yet. This is just the opener. What happens here?
20 seconds in.
Back 3 swap to the dick of that DFD. You're kidding. Oh, skiing.
What is this music you put in the background?
I mean, everybody's unique in their own way, and I don't like making comparisons too much. But
Okay, that is the most youth pastor shit I've ever heard.
holy cow. Bro. Dude, it is so difficult just to jump a millimeter when you're sliding down a piece of tubular on a pair of skis. Massive tribute to Serena Williams. They're repping the J skis as well. Dude, I've been sucking in so much air on this one. Switch left to switch. Yeah, there it is. I have so much respect for step down urban dubs.
How many do you think you can name?
Fully over, hits the tail tap, and then rips his momentum the opposite way to land switch. Keeps his knees nice and locked
He's
and loaded.
scaring me.
Trying to do a... And I love seeing the shift away from HD. You can't even, like, finish a thought watching these guys ski. Little bridge rail, back swap, continuing 270. Again, you can call that a Britney.
I don't want to call it a Britney anymore.
Flames. Massive rainbow hit. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, skiing, man. This is lovely. Who are these boys?
Lockjaw, huh?
Oh, that is disgusting. Mellow.
I think if he was at my house, I'd tell him to leave. Alright, that was kind of cool because he showed us it had like 8.3 million views when he first watched it. I do want to see. I don't know how many of these views you can attribute to Steep, but I'm gonna guess a fair amount. That's what hurts me the most about like this thing I'm doing is that like I can give a valid perspective on something like Dogged, and then it doesn't really matter because Steep talking about them is gonna do their video more good than I will in the next like 5 years. Thanks for sticking around for that, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this episode. I'll catch you next time.